I've tested lead gen strategies that cost $0 and ones that cost more than $25,000. And I'm going to walk you through all of it. If you're struggling to get traction in your capital raising business, this video will break down how to raise more capital regardless of your budget and give you a playbook of effective strategies. Okay, let's talk strategies, and we'll start with $0 or what you can do for free. And one of the things I did early on in my career when I had no money, I had no credibility. If you don't know my story, my career before this, I was serving a full-time in vocational pastoral ministry. And so when I started raising money and doing real estate deals, no one knew me. I didn't have credibility. And so I started posting on LinkedIn, but not just any post. What I would do was very strategic. And I would reach out to other influencers on LinkedIn or other folks who had credibility. And how I would find them is I would just type in hashtag investing or hashtag real estate and see who was already posting, who people were already following. And I would reach out to them directly and simply ask, hey, can I quote you on my own profile? And they were happy to do it. Why? Because I was giving them my platform of sharing their wisdom and their advice with other people. But here was the key. And this is a concept I want to introduce you to that you're going to see all throughout these strategies, is I was learning how to leverage OPA, which stands for other people's audiences. Because what would happen when I would post their quote and I have their, I'll show you some examples. It was their face and their quote. They would see that. And what would they do? They would like, they would comment. And then what happens on a platform like LinkedIn is that post now gets shared with all of their network. And over time, what began to happen is as I was platforming, as I was spotlighting other influencers, their audience would see me as someone who was worthy of following. And they would begin to look to me for advice. And so this is such a key strategy that anyone can do is early in your career, be a curator of content, be a curator of experts and leveraging other people's audiences to begin. That's how you can grow in your own credibility and grow your own audience. In terms of rating this strategy, I think it's a low output and probably a low conversion strategy in the sense that it just takes time. It's not something that's going to automatically feed you investors, but it also anyone can do and it's simple to do. Okay, next strategy, and it's shared webinars. Again, I think this is one of the most dollar for dollar effective strategies that you can use. And again, it goes back to the concept of leveraging other people's audience. And the strategy is this: you host a webinar. And so you're going to need a platform like Zoom, which is going to cost you a little bit of money. You're going to need a CRM, right? Which is going to, have a monthly budget. But for both of those, they probably cost you $20, maybe $30 a month to have both of those. And then here's what you do. You put together a webinar that essentially solves a problem that investors have. Here's a great one. How to save money on, how to pay less in taxes. Is now the best time to invest in real estate or passive income strategies? And what you do, because you're not the expert yet, or maybe you don't have an audience, is you invite other people to come and present on your stage. So this is a buddy of mine, Bronson Hill. His company is called Bronson Equity. Shout out to Bronson. And Bronson has done a tremendous job of consistently leveraging this strategy to build his list. And you can see exactly this. This is a trending topic, multifamily real estate investing in 2026. And he found 3 other very experts in their space: Hunter Thompson, Zach Happenstall, and Patrick Grimes. And again, what he would do is he goes out and he promotes this to his list. He gets these 3 guys to promote it to their list. And together they now have, are essentially attracting the people who want to come hear from these experts. You can scroll down and see, here's another one, inflation-proof asset strategies. And so he brought on David Morgan, Russell Gray, some of these guys that are experts in this, in this category. The great thing about what he's doing is these are new audiences that he did not have exposure to before. And that, for example, Russell Gray doesn't have exposure maybe necessarily to David Morgan's audience. And so these guys are able to collaborate and, they're getting value from this webinar. And so it's a great strategy of leveraging that OPA, the other people audience, but then you're also getting to do that for other people. And then the other thing that he's doing is he's now becoming an expert to his audience. So, Bronson may not be the inflation-proof specialist or the multifamily specialist, but the more he begins to do this, he becomes known as someone who's valuable in his space and is looked to for his expertise and wisdom. So again, in terms of effectiveness, I think for the price of what this costs, again, somewhere between $20 and $30 a month, this is one of the most effective strategies because you are doing an activity that directly correlates to building your list and finding more leads, which is the lifeblood of any capital raising business. So the next strategy, which is probably somewhere between $150 to $500 per lead, are Facebook ads. So here's the thing about Facebook ads. They're great because they can drive consistent leads, but they take a lot of cash up front. So it's a little bit more expensive because the sales cycle is longer. The reason is because you're reaching a cold audience. In most cases, they don't know you, right? You're running a Facebook ad, you're catching someone who's just kind of scrolling. And so you're not sharing audiences. They don't know about you. So in my experience, I have found that the sales cycle of finding someone who's interested in your ad and that you can get on a call, the sales cycle is much longer because the trust building, the relationship building is just starting. Here's what I want to do. I want to walk you briefly through. I've done a whole other video on how we've scaled a Facebook ad, lead gen strategy. But I just want to give you, again, the framework and then the things that if you're going to go do this strategy, you should pay attention to. Very simple. Our strategy is this. So an ad to a Facebook form, that form try and pushes someone to a call. And here are the things that I would measure if you're going to run Facebook ads. And there's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things to measure. The first is cost per accredited lead. Make sure you're measuring accreditation because that's quality. There's so much junk on Facebook. You want to make sure that you're really filtering for a qualified lead. The second thing to measure is cost per meeting book, right? So this is how much is it costing you to not just get a lead, but how much does it cost you to really get that lead to book a call? So that's the second thing to factor. The third thing is cost per meeting held. That means how much did it cost you in total dollars of ad spend to get someone on the phone call or on a Zoom call with you. And this is kind of like the midpoint of the funnel, right? Because this is where it goes from marketing to sales. And so after cost per meeting held, you want to know in total, what is the cost of capital on ad spend? So how much am I spending to actually get dollars into the door? So the last two things to measure are timeline from sales qualified lead to commitment. So again, this is really more on your sales team on how long does it take for them to qualify a lead, meaning, yes, I found a qualified accredited investor to get a commitment. What is the time for that to take place? And then what is the time from commitment to funding? Both of those are really good conversion metrics and timeline metrics that you want to be measuring over time. Again, who does this best serve? I mean, I think it's really good for someone who has the capital, who wants a consistent lead generation strategy. The reality is, though, this takes effort. And because anyone who is submitting their information on a Facebook form, you're not the only form that they're submitting. And so what I have found is it takes a lot of upfront work, potentially even a full-time person calling on these leads to even get them to book a call with you. So if you're someone that can build this system, you have the capital up front, and you can stick with it over a long period of time, at least 12 to 18 months, then I think this is a really effective strategy to consistently grow your capital raising business. All right, these last two strategies are higher budget. So this first one is around $10,000 to $20,000, but I think these last two are definitely the most effective ways if you have the capital to raise more money. And the first one is this: for about $10,000 to $20,000, depending on which, are newsletters. And we have raised millions of dollars in the last 12 months from sponsoring newsletters. But not just any newsletters, because I've also spent literally $10,000 to $15,000 on a newsletter and raised zero money. And I've spent $10,000 to $15,000 and raised literally in one newsletter, on one deal, we raised more than $4 million from that ad in 2025. So what's the difference between an effective newsletter and a non-effective newsletter? Here are a couple of things that just save you a lot of time and hopefully a lot of money, is that you want to partner with newsletters that have established audiences. And what I mean by that, you want to find a newsletter that they have rapport with their readers, that there's buy-in with their readership. And so some of the things to look for that I have found that really make a difference is how easy is it for someone to be a part of this newsletter? Meaning, do they have to pay for it? Or is there some type of community around it? And all of those things really contribute to the effectiveness, because if someone can just sign up for this newsletter, sure, they have 40, 50, 60,000 readers, do they really read it? I want to look for communities, even if they're smaller. Again, the community that helped us raise multiple $1 million last year, it's only about 1,200 people, but all of those people pay to be a part of this newsletter. Intent is also important. Yes, you could go sponsor a newsletter for nutrition and concierge medicine that probably has high net worth readers, but are they really looking for investment advice when they're reading that? And so I think intent of the newsletter, that you're really putting an ad in front of someone that actually is interested in your product, is also very important. In terms of effectiveness, if you have the money, I think this is absolutely one of the best strategies out there. Again, it goes back to the concept of leveraging other people's audiences. They're not directly endorsing you, but in some ways they are. If a reader is reading this newsletter because they respect the host or they respect the community, and that community is putting your product in front of them, there's already a natural trust there that you can leverage. Okay, the last strategy, by far my favorite and by far the most expensive, typically when we do these type of things, they cost $25,000 or more, are in-person events. Nothing beats face-to-face. And what I know about this business is that people want to invest with people, and they want to invest with people that they know, that they like, and they trust. And there's no better way to build trust than to break bread with someone, to get around the table, to have a shared experience with someone. And so some examples of this: recently, we just brought 25 of our top investors up to Breckenridge, Colorado, and we had a whole day kind of mastermind event where we brought in other speakers who spoke about investing, who spoke about taxes, who spoke about medicine and concierge health. And then we had a fun day where we went skiing and dog sledding, and then we had dinners every single night. And I would just say the trust that this builds when you get extended time with people is by far the greatest compounder of your business. And I'll give you a great example. Literally 2 days after the event, one of the investors that came to this event not only had committed more dollars to our fund, but gave us 3 referrals. And those 3 referrals, literally 2 days after event, added up to more than $800,000 of additional capital. And so, yes, while this takes money up front, I do not think there's a better strategy than doing face-to-face events. And if you don't have $25,000 or you're not quite ready to make that type of commitment, there are other ways to do this for less dollars. As an example, you could do happy hours, or you could do dinners in your hometown. Or here's a great strategy. You could go and fly into other cities where you have investors and ask them to bring in 5 or 6 of their buddies to join you at a dinner. And this is a great way. I'm telling you, if your cost of capital metric, typically is somewhere, if you're trying to target 1 to 3% on the amount of money that you spend, I don't want to say I guarantee you, but I can almost say that, 99% of the time you are going to get your ROI out of those dollars. So here's some things I hope you take away as we wrap up this video. One is that the lifeblood of any capital raising business is lead gen. And so that you need strategy, you need a strategy or strategies consistently to be bringing in more and more leads. And you don't need a big budget. You just need to be trying things. And that brings me to my last point, is that try things. The reason that I know these strategies work or don't work is because I am not scared to just throw things at the wall. I promise you that I've tried many more things that do not work that do, but that's how you get there. You fail fast. And so if you're trying to raise more capital, ask yourself, 1, are you leveraging other people's audiences or trying to do it alone? 2, are you testing consistently or just doing what feels safe? And 3, are you buying attention or are you buying trust? You want to make sure you're not just getting people's attention, but you're finding ways to turn that attention into trust, and trust is what ultimately converts into capital. Hey, last thing, one of the ways that we found to grow our business is having multiple offerings. And so if you're looking for additional alternative strategies for your clients like private credit, multifamily, oil and gas, I want to invite you to check out our fund manager platform. Go to aspenfunds.us/fund manager. There is a onboarding form that you can fill out to speak with our team. And if you're someone that can raise more than $1 million for a single offering, we'd love to have a conversation about partnering with us at Aspen Funds. Cheers.